philosophy determines your thought pattern. Your thought pattern determines your attitude. Your attitude determines your behavior pattern. And your behavior pattern determines your action. In other words, everything that you do is the direct result of your philosophy or the formation of thought patterns that direct all of your activities. And if you go back to this concept of Jehudi again, Jehudi represents the process of divine articulation of speech. Everything that you say, you have to begin to construct some framework in your mind before you say it. Jehudi was the African name for this Neter. When Egypt was conquered by the Greeks, Jehudi's name was changed to Thoth. And then later, Thoth was changed to Hermes. And then when the Romans conquered the Greeks, then Hermes became Mercury. Now if you look at this one particular Neter, you see that it is from the word Thoth that we have derived the word thought, T-H-O-U-G-H-T. And thought is the process by which you bring everything into manifestation. You should think before you speak. You should think before you act. And if you embody or in spirit the principle or the philosophy of Jehudi, it means that all of your thoughts, all of your words, all of your actions will be as those of Jehudi. Again, this was one of the important things, symbolic things and philosophical things about the Neteru, in that these were prototypes for aspects of human behavior that could be developed, as I mentioned earlier, and as you will see tomorrow when we get to the temple at Edfu and see the battle between Set and Heru. Heru becomes the prototype for the hero. The word hero, H-E-R-O, is derived from the word hero, H-E-R-U. And it is through the manifestation of the powers of Heru that one develops the strength, the insight, the wisdom, or the spiritual force to overcome whatever obstacle you're confronted with. So, again, these Neteru were not just simply images that were carved on the walls or that were written on papyri, but they were prototypes for human behavior. To think something is to become it, is to manifest it into your thoughts, into your speech, and your action. Now, one of the things that is important is that there was an entire system of education here in Kemet that was developed along this line of thinking. We just left the Apet Sut, or Karnak Temple, which was called, the Apet Sut means the most select of places, the holiest of places. This was part of a vast educational system that had been developed here in Kemet and later spread throughout the world. Within the confines of this temple, there were a number of different disciplines that were being taught. And let me just give you a listing of some of the activities that were taught within this institution. You had the mystery teachers of heaven, who were those who studied astronomy and astrology. You had the mystery teachers of all lands, those who were responsible for geology, okay, measuring the land. And measuring the land is one very important aspect of this land, because every year when the Nile would flood, the waters from the Nile would cover all of the land, would wipe out all of the boundaries between one person's land and another person's land. And all of this land had to be remarked. One had to be able to survey the land every year. So this was a valuable skill that had to be learned. You had the master teachers of the depths, or geology, those who were responsible for developing the mining techniques to extract the gold, to extract the lapis, to extract the other precious stones that were very much a part of this society. Someone had to figure out a way to get these precious metals and to bring them up into the earth. And in Nile Valley, I've got a copy of a map that had been developed thousands of years ago. This map was drawn for City the First on page 130. And it was a map that showed you how they mine gold. And when you dig for precious ores beneath the earth, you don't just go straight down, you dig at a certain angle. And that angle exposes you to a greater area within the earth, which allows you to extract more of these minerals. They also understood that each mineral, each stone has certain properties, resonated at a certain vibratory frequency, which were used for certain purposes. It's no accident or coincidence that certain stones were used to build certain temples, or certain types of stones were used in the Holy of Holies, the shrines, and a different type of stone was used as fortification for the temple. Right? All of these stones had different properties, and so you had people who were literally masters at understanding the qualities of each stone and knew which stone could be used for which purpose. Another set of instructors were the mystery teachers of the secret word, those who taught philosophy and theology, those who literally understood the physical effects of Medu Neter, the word of the gods, or the writing of the god, of the Neteru, knew that the use of certain words could bring about specific changes within our environment. He had those who were mysteries of pharaohs, or mystery teachers who examined words. Those were the lawyers, those were the governors, the administrators, and others who had certain roles involving communication. There's a way to speak to someone in order to motivate them to do what it is that needs to be done. Right? And that was an art that was taught within this educational institution. And I want you to understand, as we begin to see other temples now, temples that were built, the next few temples that we're going to see were temples that were built by the Greeks. But even though they were built after the creation of this Kemetic educational system, they still wanted to perpetuate this African knowledge base. And so, as Professor James talked about, George G.M. James talked about in his book Stolen Legacy, he made reference to the three primary levels of instruction that were part of the educational system in ancient Kemet. The first level is that of the neophyte. That is the person who came in with no knowledge whatsoever, who oftentimes, as young students, they worked with the scribes and just copied the scrolls. I mean, they didn't know what they were writing, they didn't understand what they were writing, but through the process of just copying the Medu Neter, copying the scrolls, they began to learn how to write and began to understand the relationship between writing and thinking. The neophytes were probationary students who had not yet experienced inner vision or initiation. The second level was that of the intelligentsia, those who received intelligence, those who, through the process of their initial training, began to get some understanding of the information that they were exposed to. And with that insight, they gained inner vision or mind. Right? The next level is that of sons and daughters of light, or children of the sun. Now understand that the word sun and the word light are both metaphors for knowledge and information. When one receives, if you notice in many cartoons, for example, when someone gets an idea, a light bulb goes on in their head, right? Or if someone is very smart, you'll say that that person is bright or brilliant. Light, or the sun, is a metaphor for knowledge or mind, a refined mind. And so these individuals were referred to as children of the sun, or sons and daughters of light, sons and daughters of knowledge. And those who had reached that level of instruction, and again, mind you, that the process of education was 42 years. 42 years. Within this process of education, you did not just specialize in one particular field, but you learned all of the aspects of knowledge, all of the degrees of knowledge. And as I mentioned earlier, the people of Kemet were responsible for developing the concept of 360 degrees of a circle. Each degree represented one aspect of the Neteru, one aspect of knowledge. And so you had to master all of these aspects of knowledge in order to see this universe as a whole and not as a fragmented part of something else. Everything is related to something else. And this is one of the things that you learn from an understanding of Ma'at. Ma'at deals with the concepts of truth and justice, balance, harmony, reciprocity, and order. There is an order to the universe. Everything has to be balanced in order for this order to exist or to even maintain itself. So you have to realize that when you take something, then you have to replace it with something else. There always has to be this give and take relationship. Within this educational system, again going back to Stolen Legacy, Professor James talks about the prerequisites for personal development, which were necessary in order for someone to advance from the level of the neophyte to the level of a son or daughter of light. And those prerequisites for personal development were referred to as the 10 virtues. Okay, 10 virtues. The first one, and I'll run through them and then come back and expound on them. Control of thought, control of action, steadfastness, identity with higher ideals, evidence of a mission, evidence of a call to spiritual order, freedom from resentment, confidence in the power of the master, the teacher, confidence in yourself, and then preparedness for initiation. Okay, the 10 virtues. Now let's go through and examine each one. The first is control. 10 virtues is in, I've got them listed in the back part of the book, and you'll also see them listed in greater detail in Stolen Legacy. Let's see, bear with me 1 second. Let's go to the 10 virtues on page 264, Nile Valley, page 264. First is control of thought. Again, thought is derived from the concept of thought or Jehudi. So control of the process of divine articulation of speech. Again, going back to the statement that everything that you say and do begins first as a thought in your mind. And as I shared with you at the lecture in the Sheridan, thoughts are not just some random things that come to you from nowhere. Thoughts come to you from a much broader realm of consciousness. That place that we mistakenly refer to as nothing is the source of everything, the source of all ideas, all information. So if you understand that everything that is already exists, then by putting yourself in the proper frame of mind, you can then begin to attract to yourself that which you want that is already there. Right? And then once you establish, and then this is part of what Ma'at represents in terms of a harmonic relationship. Once you become one with a thought, that thought comes into your conscious mind, and then you manifest it through either your thoughts or your actions, your speech or your action. So control of thought, which is followed by control of action. So if you are thinking right, then it means that all of your actions will reflect correct thought. You will be acting correctly. So the third point, steadfastness, is once you have been able to establish this relationship, then you want to be able to maintain it, which is steadfastness. when you have steadfastness or fortitude to a particular orientation, then you will begin to experience identity with higher ideals. You will begin to understand the deeper meaning or the true meaning to existence. We were not born on this earth to eat, excrete, reproduce, and die. Everyone here on this earth is here for a specific purpose. Everyone here on this planet has a specific task that they can do better than anybody else. Some people, those who we call geniuses, are people who are able to identify what their role is early in life, and they do it to the best of their ability. Those who are lost or confused for whatever reason are never able to make that connection. And so they never fulfill their purpose in life, but everybody has a reason for being here on this planet. And so once you begin to control your thoughts, control your actions, and maintain this relationship, you will begin to cultivate the understanding to know why you are here, to identify with higher ideals. When you identify with higher ideals, you separate yourself from all of these other ideals that would tend to bring you down. So by raising your consciousness, you will begin to experience what's referred to as evidence of your mission. You will begin to understand why you were born at this particular point in time on planet Earth. You experience evidence of a mission, and then when you begin to exercise your mission, you will experience what's referred to as a call to spiritual order. That is, at some point in time, this creative spirit that exists within the universe and maintains balance and harmony within the universe will call upon you and tell you that you are ready, and these are the things that you need to do in order to move forward with your life. You will get this call to spiritual order. Now, when you experience this call to spiritual order, the next test for you, if you will, is freedom from resentment. Resentment from whom? Resentment from the people that you love. Resentment from your mother or your father who don't understand why you into this African stuff, all right? Resentment from your husband or your wife who can't begin to understand why you have turned your back on all of these other things that supposedly were good and right for us, good colored people, and are now dabbling in this other stuff that you know you ain't supposed to be dealing with. So you have to be able to be free from resenting these people because they don't understand what your mission is. From that point, you begin to move into the 8th point, which is confidence in the power of the master of the teacher. In every instance, it has been said that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You will, by changing your thinking, and again, beginning to understand the power of thoughts. Thought is like an energy form that attracts to you those things that you focus on. So once you begin to focus on higher ideals, you will begin to attract into your sphere of influence those people who can help you fulfill your mission to achieve these higher ideals. You ever notice the statement that order seeks its own level? You attract to you those things that you focus your energy on. Do you all know people who tend to have a string of bad luck, have one crisis after another, one bad relationship after another, and they talk about how there ain't no good men out here and there ain't no good women out here, and they never stop to look at what they are doing to attract a specific type of person to them? Every person, through your thoughts, generates a certain level of consciousness which attracts to you people of the same level of consciousness. That is real. That is extremely real. And if you can take the time to evaluate yourself and your life, then you'll be able to see where you have moved correctly and when you have moved incorrectly. And if you notice, when you move correctly, you're usually thinking, talking, and acting a certain way, which draws into your sphere of influence people who think and act in a similar manner, right? So if you want to advance in life, then you have to be able to put yourself, again, going back to this, to the metaphors or the symbols associated with each of the Neteru. If you have a specific task that you have to perform, then you've got these 36 symbols, these 36 Neteru, these 36 manifestations of the Creator that you can call on, that you can mentally vibrate on to bring into your consciousness in order to assist you accomplish whatever it is that you want to do. You are not alone. You got all the help you need in order to do anything that you set your mind on. If you want to be the best artist, or if you want to be the best thief, there are forces out here that will help you do whatever it is that you want to do. All right? Confidence in the power of the master, the teacher. The 9th point is confidence in yourself. Once you have come under the guidance and direction of someone who spends the time to show you how to use this knowledge, how to use this power, how to use this energy, then you've got to believe in your right and your ability to do this. That means you can't, when it's time for you to act, you can't doubt whether or not you can do this or whether or not you should do this. You must know with clarity that this is what I should do, and now is when I should do it, and then do it. And when you are able to function on that level, you are now ready for initiation. Initiation into what? Initiation into life. And then what you will find is you begin to enter life on one level. You will be met with challenges that will test all of these virtues that you supposedly have developed. And if you are able through these tests to meet all of these challenges, then you will be then in a position to move to the next level. And then on that level, the process begins all over again. So you keep doing this thing over and over and over again until you get it right. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you can begin to be serious about this thing called life and do the work that you were put here on planet Earth to do. Right? So that's part of the essence of how these people were taught to think, were taught to view reality. Believing that you have the ability and you have at your disposal the forces that will allow you to live up to your expectations. And then being in the right environment where you can begin to do these things allows you to move forward. I mean, does that make any kind of sense to you?
Yes.
All right. So, again, when I asked you all to imagine as you were walking through that Pedasut, what this temple looked like when it was brand new, what could have motivated these people to spend this time and this energy to develop these structures, begin to see that they were functioning at a totally different level of consciousness. They understood their purpose for being involved in the process of either constructing this building, carving the images on the building, painting the images on the building, or maintaining the entire structure. They were living for eternity. This concept of dealing with the afterlife is really quite incorrect, because this is the afterlife, the life after the one that you had before.
That's right.
Okay? One of the things that you will understand about the study of the Neteru, or nature, is that everything in nature is cyclical.
It's cycle, that's right.
Follows a pattern. And as Dr. John Henry Clarke says, history is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is cyclical. And if you understand that history is a clock, then all you have to do is to see where you are in that clock and then know where you came from in order to understand where you are going and how you must prepare yourself for the times ahead. This thing called life is really very simple if you understand that everything is interrelated. Everything follows certain patterns. Okay? So if you study the patterns, the reoccurring patterns in life, because life today is no different than it was 10,000 years ago. People have the same basic needs, same basic desires, the same basic nature. The only difference is how they express it. Everything is basically the same. We're cruising down the Nile, just like the ancient Kemites cruised down the Nile thousands of years ago. We see the same sights. We experience the same sun that they experienced. At night, if you were to sit up on the deck of this ship at night, you see the same stars that they saw. You experienced in the same dimensions of reality that they experienced. So we need to learn from the lessons that they established for us. Now, let me share with you this concept, this quote, which comes out of John Anthony West's publication, Serpent in the Sky, the Secret Wisdom of Ancient Egypt. This quote is very profound. It talks about the brain, all right? It says the brain is not an evolved organ which accidentally generated a faculty called consciousness. On the contrary, it was developed in order to receive consciousness. Aspects of universal consciousness which are necessary for man to perform foreordained tasks. All right, let me read that again. The brain is not an evolved organ which accidentally generated a faculty called consciousness. On the contrary, it was developed in order to receive consciousness. Aspects of universal consciousness which are necessary for man to perform foreordained tasks. Just as a radio was designed to receive radio waves, which are already present in the atmosphere, the nature of consciousness determines the structure of the brain. The nature of sound determines the structure of the ear. The nature of light determines the structure of the eye. And the nature of the nature, or the natural, determines the structure of man. Now let me explain this, all right? In terms of understanding sound, the nature of sound determines the structure of the ear. The nature of light determines the structure of the eye. You all are able to hear me because my vocal cords vibrate and send out sound vibrations which move through the air and are picked up by your ear. And these vibrations move through the inner canal of your ear and cause your eardrum to vibrate, which then sends electronic signals to your brain. And your brain then breaks down these vibrations into words. That is how you hear.
It's deep.
You see because light bounces off of an object. Light travels at 138,000 miles per second. Light bounces off of an object, and what you see is the reflection of light off of that object, which then travels through your eye. And again, the darker your eye, the more melanin you have in your eye, the more of these vibrations, light vibrations, you can receive. These light vibrations are then converted into electronic signals in the back of your eye, which are then sent to your brain. And your brain then creates an image that constructs within itself what it is you are looking at. All right? That's how you hear. That's how you see. The nature of consciousness determines the structure of the brain. All right? And the nature of the Neteru determines what we have here, how we perceive the Neteru. Right? Because all we're talking about is the ability that we have, the physical ability that we have in order to perceive the spiritual reality that surrounds us, the Neteru, or manifestations of the Creator, of God. Right? So this body here is an instrument, is a tool that was designed specifically to allow you to harness the energy of the nature, or the energy of God, in order for you to take that energy and then use it to recreate God-like things in your environment, in the physical environment. So people who understand their relationship to the whole, of their relationship to the universe, are truly able to function as human beings. We function on a subhuman level. His brother was saying the other day, Eric was saying the other day, we use less than 10% of our brain, and appear to be very proud of that. The average human being uses 10% of their brain. What person in their right mind will be comfortable using 10% of anything? I mean, think of it from this standpoint. If you all were an employer, if you had a business, would you keep somebody on your payroll who only came to work 10% of the time? Why would you settle for less than what you are capable of doing? And again, everything that you see in this environment is the work of people who understood who they were and how they function within the universal scheme of things. This concept of the temple in man, which you see an illustration of on page 120 of Nile Valley. The whole concept of the temple in man was a symbolic interpretation of Kemetic architecture, philosophy, and symbolism put forth by Shwala de Lubicz. De Lubicz, his wife Aisha, and his stepdaughter Lucy spent 15 years at Luxor Temple, studying, diagramming, measuring every square inch of that particular temple. And what they discovered, or what they put forth in this book, The Temple in Man, is this understanding of the fact that this temple, I've got a larger picture here I can show you. This temple, okay, I'm on page 120 in Nile Valley, right. What this temple is literally laid out in the form of a human body. And a prototype for that human body is, or in that particular instance, Ramesses II. And that by taking a drawing of one of the statues of Ramesses and making that drawing proportional to a planned view of that temple, and then superimposing that image on the temple, what they found is that on the inner walls of that temple were either scenes or carvings which represented specific functions that took place within corresponding parts of the human body. In other words, this temple embodied man, and was on one level, was a manifestation of the cosmic nature of man. And let me list a couple of areas that they brought to light. The Holy of Holies, for example. Holy of Holies in that temple corresponds to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is that part of your brain, is in the center, the exact center of your brain. And it is that organ within the body which is now regarded by many physicians as being the master gland within the body. That is, it regulates the secretion of hormones, which determines every activity, every function that takes place within your body. Now, within ancient Kemet and other Eastern societies, this pineal gland was referred to as the third eye, or the eye of inner vision. It was, on another level, your direct line of communication with the Creator. It's the process by which you are able to access higher levels of thought. And so the symbol of the uraeus on the forehead of the crown of the king, of the pharaoh, represents an active and functioning pineal gland, represents one who has developed to a higher level of consciousness to the point where they are able to have direct line of communication with the Creator, with the Spirit. And what's interesting is that just within the last 20 years, medical science has validated this reality from the standpoint of, if you go back 50 years in medical texts, they were teaching that the pineal gland was a small, calcified gland in the body that served no purpose. And think about this, if the Creator would make a part of your body that had no use. Like they used to tell you back in the 50s when I was young, that the tonsils and the adenoids served no purpose in the body. So if you kept getting a throat infection, their solution was to take out your tonsils. My doctor took out my tonsils because they kept flaring up. And what we discovered later was that within most black people, because of the fact that our bodies are designed differently from Europeans, we have a lactose intolerance. So whenever we drank milk, our tonsils would flare up because they were fighting off, attempting to fight off the bacteria that was in the milk that we couldn't digest. So rather than feeding you what you should be fed, you just take out the tonsils and the So the Europeans believed that the soldiers who were killed during the Vietnam War, that they began to make a discovery in the differences between the pineal glands of the brothers who were killed versus the Caucasians who were killed. And what they found was that in 85% of the African Americans, the pineal gland was a large, fleshy organ about the size of your thumb. And within the 85% of the Caucasian population, it was calcified. And so when they began to study the pineal, they found out that it was a functioning organ, was supposed to function, and that it regulated the secretion of hormones throughout the body, right? And those scholars who deal with the pineal gland and the secretion of pineal hormones talk about the secretion of this hormone called melatonin, which is secreted in the evening, particularly between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. The pineal gland secretes a hormone called melatonin, which literally coats your head with this oily, fishy-like substance that allows you to experience a higher state of consciousness, or an altered state of consciousness. It literally allows you to tap into the ancestral realm of consciousness, which the ancient Kemites referred to as a mentor, or the realm of the ancestors. Allows you to see with your eyes closed. Right? So when you think about the fact that when you are asleep, when you are dreaming, you see visions, you see people, you have experiences. How is this action taking place? It is the result of specific hormones that are secreted by the pineal gland. If you think about it from the standpoint of our elders who are in situations where they may have been confronted with important decisions to make in life, and rather than make a snap judgment, they would often say, well, child, let me just sleep on it. Let me just sleep on it for a minute. And then the next morning they would say, well, I went to bed, thinking about, this problem. And Aunt Sue came to me last night and told me that I shouldn't sell this house to this man, right? What happened in that particular instance, and what happens in most instances, is the thoughts that you go to, the thoughts that you have when you go to sleep, are thoughts that are acted upon by your subconscious. When you reach this level of expanded consciousness between hours of 2 and 4, when this hormone is secreted, and you begin to experience an altered state of consciousness to the standpoint where you are able to make contact with the ancestors who are in a position to offer you guidance if you seek it, if you ask for it. Now this hormone melatonin is manufactured by the pineal gland, as are other hormones which direct activities that take place in the body. The word hormone is derived from the word Hermes. Now, who did I tell you Hermes was?
Jehudi.
Jehudi, all right? In Kemet, he was known as Jehudi. He represented the process of divine articulation of speech. He was later known by the Greeks as talk, or the process of thinking. Then he became known as Hermes, all right? Hermes was, in Greek mythology, Hermes was the messenger of the gods, right? When the Romans conquered the Greeks, then they took all of the gods that the Greeks had stolen from Kemet and Latinized them. And in this particular instance, Hermes became Mercury. Who was Mercury in the Roman myth?
Messenger of the gods.
Right. He had the same characteristics as did Hermes in the Greek myth. Now, Mercury is also, the name of the planets are derived from Greco-Roman myths, all right? Mercury is what planet?
It's the fiery planet, isn't it?
Mercury is what planet? We're on the third planet.
The first one.
Mercury is the first planet. All right? Mercury is the first planet, the planet closest to the sun. All right? So Mercury was called the messenger of the sun because he was closest to the sun. I think Mercury revolves around the sun, rotates around the sun in about 88 days. Okay, moves the fastest around the sun. The sun is a symbol or metaphor for what power?
Light and knowledge,
And
wisdom.
What were you saying? What's the sun?
It's a representation of God.
God. Ra.
Right, yeah.
Heru.
Heru, yeah.
Amen. Aman is the sun. Sun is a symbol for God. Mercury is a planet that revolves closest to the sun, revolves the fastest around the sun. Mercury is a messenger of the gods. That means that Mercury takes messages from the sun to the other planets, right? And the European representation of Mercury is that of a man. If you turn to page 168, European representation of Mercury or Hermes is that of a man with a hat that has wings on it and with wings on his feet, representing fleetness of thought, fleetness of activity and movement. Okay? Now, Mercury is derived from Hermes, and it is from the word Hermes that we have gotten the word hormones. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical messages which are secreted by the pineal gland. Right? Chemical messages from God. The pineal gland is the seat of God within man. Okay? And these chemical messages are now moving through your body. It is the pineal gland which within the youth. When the youth reaches the age of 13, in most African traditions, when the youth reached the age of 13, they were prepared for their rite of passage. Their rite of passage is from childhood into adulthood. All right? What happens? What happens at puberty? What happens at puberty?
Hormones flare up.
Yeah.
Inside.
Hormone flare up. That's a southeast way of putting it.
Body changes.
Your body changes.
Chemistry
changes.
Yeah. Chemical,
changes.
yeah, chemistry changes.
All right. Let's look at two concepts. All right. Hormones flaring up in the body, and chemistry changing. Now, you realize the word chemistry comes from chemet. Okay? Chemistry comes from chemet. So this stuff about ancient Kemet, ancient Africa, begins to flow through your body. These hormones are chemical messages from God that are secreted through your body that changes your body structure. If you are a female child, you will what? Begin your cycle. Hormones will cause your body shape to change. Your hips to begin to broaden. You begin to develop breasts. If you're a male child, the secretion of hormones, chemical substances from God, will cause the male, his chest to begin to broaden. Him develop hair. His voice begins to deepen. Begins to have wet dreams as he prepares to assume the role of a man. His body changes as a result of these chemical messages which come from the Creator. So, the whole purpose of these schools of education was to teach the youth how to become adults and to teach the adults how to become responsible adults. See, it was a 42-year process because you are constantly changing and evolving. You're constantly going through rites of passages as you move from one level of consciousness to the next, to the next, to the next. And if there's not someone there to teach you about the phase of life that you are about to enter into, then you'll be like a person with raging hormones. You'll be irresponsible. You'll have all of this power, all of this creative power surging through your body, but you won't know how to use it. So in most instances, it will wind up being destructive power. So one of the things we've got to understand is how this knowledge and information was first of all developed by our ancestors for our benefit, and then we've got to understand how this information has been stolen away from us and then changed in form so that even when it's presented to us, we don't understand it. Okay? What I just shared with you about Hermes, about Mercury, still holds true in your body today. Again, if we look back on page 168, and I show you here this transition of one particular Neteru, from Hermes, from Jehudi to Hermes to Mercury. You need to understand how profound this reality is. You'll see Jehudi when we get to the temple of Edfu. I'll show you this image when we get to Edfu as well as Phale. Remind me if I don't think to do it on my own to show you the significance of this image of Jehudi. You will see it in Edfu, and you also see it in Kamombo. Jehudi holding in his hands two staffs with two serpents. One serpent has the crown of Upper Kemet, the other serpent has the crown of Lower Kemet. These two staffs were later modified by the Greeks and the Romans into an object that was referred to as the staff of Hermes, which is a symbol for the human body. All right? And let me find in the study guide. Move to the study guide. Show you 35, 45 on page 45. Right. The caduceus, the symbol of medicine. Page 45. The symbol of medicine was derived from the same symbol that you see here, Jehudi holding in his hand. the staff with two serpents intertwined around it. This symbol, this image is symbolic, and it represents the human body. It represents you. The staff represents your spinal column. As you've seen in several of the temples, the jade column or the spine of a sun represents your spine. The two serpents represent the energy that flows around the spine, masculine and feminine, positive, negative energy that flows through your body. On one hand, you may see it as your veins or your arteries, like the energy that flows through your body. This emblem at the top represents your mind. And these wings here, you'll also see it at the Temple of Edfu. At the entrance to the Temple of Edfu is the winged sun disk, which is a metaphor for a person who has a conscious mind. The sun disk is a symbol for your mind, enlightenment. The wings represent the process by which you are able to liberate yourself from those things that drag you down or tie you to earth. Knowledge, enlightenment will allow you to literally free your mind so that you can transcend to your higher self. So this symbol here, the symbol for medicine, the average physician can't tell you what it represents. Don't know. But it is a symbol that represents you, represents the potential for knowledge, the potential for enlightenment, the potential to heal yourself exists within you already. Right? On one level, if you think about it, every person in this room possesses every disease known to man. Every one of you got AIDS, you got cancer, you've got tuberculosis. You got all these diseases in your body right now. But because of the fact that your body is at a state of ease, the energy flowing through your body is balanced, is in harmony with my eye, then the diseases do not take over the function of your body. And you are in a state of health, or you are whole, which is what the word health means, to be whole, to be sound. And it's only when you destroy the equilibrium in your body that you become subject to dis-ease, disharmony within your body. Okay? So if you understand that you have every disease within your body right now, you also have the answer, the solution to every problem within your body right now. And if you do those things necessary to bring out those solutions or those answers, then it will be reflected in everything that you do, everything that you say. So again, I want you to be conscious of how to interpret what it is that you see here in Kemet. Why it is that 3,000 years after the buildings of these temples, people are still coming here, building off of, profiting off of things that were made 3,000 years ago, marveling at the construction of these sites, the meaning of these monuments. And as Brother Littlejohn had mentioned to me today when we were going in one of the temples, I think it was the last temple we went in before we went into Tutankhamun's tomb, the last tomb. He was asking me as we were walking down the stairs, well, did they have these stairs here when they built the tombs? I said, well, no, man, they didn't have the stairs. I mean, why would they have stairs? This is a tomb. People weren't supposed to be walking in and out of these structures. They may have built stairs or a ramp when they were constructing it, but after it was done, they took all of this stuff out. So he said, you mean to tell me they would build all of this stuff and have all of these paintings and carvings for somebody who was dead? Yes, because they understood that death was but a doorway to another life. Okay? And in the tomb of Ramesses III, where Abu Naga showed you the scenes of the races of man. Okay, on one side, on the left side of the room, there were these portraits of the various people who inhabited the earth. On the other side of the room was this image that I had seen 2 years ago when I was here, and I saw it, and you know, Naeem Akbar was on our trip, and we were looking at it, and we were trying to make some sense out of it. And it appears as though it's an image of a Tsar standing, mummified form, and these two like ropes coming out of his body, intertwining ropes that look like strands of RNA and DNA. You know how they weave around each other? These two strands emanating from his body, passing through 12 individuals who were standing among the stars. And it wrapped all the way around one wall, across another wall, and then went over the doorway, and these ropes went through, these threads went through another person, the other end of the wall, who was like holding the loose ends. And on one hand, what it symbolized to me when I was looking at it today, what it symbolized to me was the basic essence of life, the basic genetic material of life, RNA or DNA, was being transmitted from God through man, the various stages of mankind, various aspects of humanity, from one to the next, 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 to this particular point in time, so that we contain within ourselves all of the genetic material of everybody who preceded us. All of their experiences are encoded within the cells of our body. All of the trials and tribulations, all of the emotions that they felt are in us today. And if we understand that we are in possession of all of this knowledge, all of this information, all of these genes or genius, all right, that's what the word genius refers to, is the genes within us, all right? If you realize that you are in possession of all of this knowledge and information, then you can begin to develop the means to tap into this information and use it for whatever purposes you may need to use it for. So if we are to truly understand ourselves as human beings on this trip, we need to understand our relationship to the people here of Kemet, not just as people of color, but people who share a genetic memory, people who share a spiritual connection that is very much alive, that is very much a part of us, that we have to begin to cultivate and bring out. The whole process behind education, the whole concept of education, from an African perspective, is rooted in the word education, which means to bring out that which is within. You're already in possession of the knowledge. And what you have to do is to be placed in the correct environment, a nurturing environment where that which is within can be released so that you can become, so literally so that the ancestors can live through you and that you can continue their legacy. Right? That's what that symbol on the wall represents. And it's significant that genetic interpretation for humanity was exactly on the opposite side of the room as was the anthropological interpretation of the development of humanity. We exist on several levels simultaneously. What we have to do is to combine this understanding to form one view of reality and then to function on that level. Okay? That's your mission. That's how you all, have to see this trip. You have to understand the other things that you're going to see tomorrow when we get to Edfu Temple. Understand that the symbolic as well as the spiritual significance between the battle of Heru and Set. It's a mythological battle, but it also symbolizes the battle that goes on within you every day. You've got to battle what they refer to as the dark side of yourself. You shine light on that dark side, and you understand it, so you know what it is that you have to do in order to move forward. It's all about moving forward. It's all about progressing. It's all about manifesting the powers of Heru, being strong enough, brave enough to face yourself, to overcome your lower animal nature or your confused nature, and to manifest the God force which dwells within you. How many of you all saw the movie Star Wars? Okay, that's that trilogy Star Wars, which is all nothing but a metaphor for the same things that I've been talking about. And if you remember in the second series, Return of the Jedi, was it
Empire Strikes Back?
Empire Strikes Back, where Luke went to the
Yoda.
planet to learn from Yoda.
Yeah.
All right, and as Yoda was training him to master himself, he got to a point in the training exercise where he stopped to rest, and Luke said that he, felt strange. He felt, something evil, and Yoda said, "Well, it's coming from the cave," and he said that you have to go into the cave. So Luke prepared himself to go into the cave, and then he stopped and picked up his weapon. And Yoda said, "You don't need your weapon. You don't need to take it with you." But he took it anyway. Took it into the cave, and who did he confront?
Himself.
He confronted Darth Vader, his father. And in doing battle with Darth Vader, he discovered that Darth Vader was himself.
Yeah.
That cave was a symbol for the subconscious
mind.
He had to go in and meet himself, meet his fear. And his greatest fear was Darth Vader. And in reality, this fear he discovered was not Darth Vader, but himself. And then it was only at the end of the movie that he discovered that Darth Vader was his father.
Yeah.
Okay? So that we were surrounded by metaphors, by symbols, which on one level can teach you some of the lessons of life. We see it here in Kemet. We also can see it around us. In America, we know what to look for. The primary lesson in life that we must learn is know who we are, and then to conquer our lower animal nature so that we can cultivate the divine that dwells within. Once you've done that, then there is no obstacle that stands in your way, because you'll be able to access any tool necessary to accomplish any task that is put before you. Right? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You talked about how the nature of light determines the structure of the eye, the nature of sound determines the structure of the ear, and then you were saying the nature of the Neheru
Right.
determines, I lost that, the structure of what exactly?
The nature of the natural determines our faculty for receiving the ability to process all of this, to put all of this stuff together. Okay? Yes? Is Neteru is a plural for Neteru. N-E-T, it's spelled different ways. How I spell it in the book is N-E-T-C-H-E-R, which is singular. And Neteru is N-E-T-C-H-E-R-U. All right, Neteru, which is plural. All right. And then within the Kemetic language, you have the singular, you have the plural, which means three or more, and then you have the dual. And the dual would be the complementary aspects of a Neteru. which would be Neterui, right? Which would be Netherw, right? So you've got those three aspects of the language. And again, you know, this is no coincidence that you're dealing with this concept of three, this Trinity, over and over again. As we left, there's a Trinity associated with Memphis, Menepha. There's a Trinity associated with Waset or Luxor. Each of the various provinces of Kemet had a Trinity. And what you see manifested within this Trinity is this profound understanding of the one source of creation, the dual manifestations of the one, masculine and feminine, and then the uniting of these dual aspects to make a third, which is the Trinity, which completes the Trinity. So that everything that we see here in life on this level manifests itself through that process. Okay? Yes.
The 10th virtue, what was it?
Is preparation for initiation. Yes.
Did you want to go through the temple one, ma'am? You started, you had the Holy of Holies was a pineal gland. You didn't want to do the rest.
Right. Well.
No.
I mean, I didn't want to go through all of them, but you know, because I would suggest that you read "Serpent in the Sky" by John Anthony West. Is a good publication that helps to explain the philosophy behind the Temple of Man. It was originally written by Swallow de Lubbock in French, and all of the translations of that text are really quite cumbersome. You kind of lose the feeling of the text in the translation. But West, in his publication, does probably one of the best jobs of interpreting the works of de Lubbock. And for a European, I've got to give him credit because he has proven himself to be very capable of interpreting the symbolic and aspects of the spiritual realm of ancient Kemet. Yes.
I just wanted to add a little bit on that. I have the book, The Serpent in the Sky. I got it out of the library, and John Anthony West has a couple other books out too. He has this book called Mystery of the Sphinx. It talks about the Sphinx, and he brings in a lot of experts, and they look at the erosion of the Sphinx, and it just goes into a lot of different things. And back to Serpent in the Sky, it's a real deep book. It talks about a lot of different things. It talks about the Temple of Man. It talks about one thing, I don't know if you're going to address or not, but mathematics and how that's related to the universe, and basically the numerology. I was reading from how it goes from 1 to 7, and from 1 if there's a unity, and that unity is sort of the omnipresence or the God force, and then from there to generate the world. And like they say, God took 7 days, and then they break down from 1 to 7, and it's just interesting. But it's really deep, but it's also it goes into metaphysical and all kind of things. So it is a good book.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
About George D.M.J. Is there anything written in terms of the ancient Kemites and what one could do to stimulate the pineal gland?
There were several things that it was obvious. There were several things that one could do. Exposure to sunlight stimulates the pineal gland. So when you see images of Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and their children, literally being, let me see, Nefertiti, Akhenaten, and their children. Here we see Akhenaten and Nefertiti paying homage to their Tun, or the sun. And you see the rays of the sun extending in hands, touching their body, caressing their body. And all of the rays of sunlight that come closest to their nostrils have in their hands ankhs. So the sun is giving life to them, giving life to man. The sun is basically the instrument responsible for the development and maintenance of all life on this planet. And so in their text, they talk about things that the sun does to you, how it influences you. Many of the melanin scholars have also talked about not only the benefits of exposure to sunlight, but this melatonin relationship and certain things that you can do to enhance the production of melatonin in your body, which will allow you to have enhanced dreams. Right? Certain foods that you can eat that are high in tryptophan, bananas, spinach, greens, and even certain dairy products. Ice cream, it's high in tryptophan, and grapes. And Carol Barnes was talking a number of years ago. We had him in town to do a lecture, and he was talking about how, and one of the things that tryptophan does is to cool you out. We're saying how women who had children who were very restless, one of the things who had difficulty going to sleep, he told one woman, just give your child a handful of black grapes, Concord grapes, before they go to bed. And what the grapes do, the grapes have tryptophan in it, and when they eat the grapes, the tryptophan will be released into their blood system, and what it does is a natural sedative, and it's also a precursor to melatonin. So it allows your body to take this chemical substance and to produce more of this other substance, melatonin, which will enhance your level of spiritual receptivity. So we're beginning to see, as a result of more of our people studying our history and our culture, our ancient history and culture, then from their own specific disciplines, they're looking at ways or revealing ways that we can begin to tap into this collective consciousness to make better use of the time that we have. Eddie, you had a question?
I was just going to comment on when you said that the Ankh was placed near their noses when the sun was beaming basically on them. That basically parallels to in Genesis where God says he breathed the breath of life into the nostrils of man to give him life. So basically that is taken from that where the Ankh is life and is held up to the nostrils. So the breath or life or the knowledge or the understanding, the wisdom that gives you life is then breathed into man and to give him life, to give him conscience, to give him intelligence.
And tomorrow we're going to deal more with Kemetic concepts of spirituality that have been endowed to humanity. Before we... Why is it calcified? Well, to one extent, see, the calcification is due to their inability to process certain chemicals, all right? And what it means is within them, because of the fact that they react to sunlight differently. Sunlight has a different effect on them than it does to us, all right? And so what it means is that they must get understanding or stimulation through a different means than we do. One of the other things that Carol Barnes had mentioned to me as well about melanin and pineal calcification is that because of the fact that we have melanin in our skin and in our bodies, what it does is act as a enhancer of certain frequencies of vibration, be it sound vibration or light vibration, and it causes us to be more receptive to lower frequencies of vibration. And if you understand how we respond to sound, then always within the African community, we have used sound or instruments of a lower vibratory rate to stimulate us. The drum or the bass is always, we call it the bottom, right? You know, it gives us that beat that once you get the beat, then you can build on top of that. So melanin allows you to be receptive to this vibration so that the vibration can move up through your body. Europeans, on the other hand, because of the fact that they lack the ability to receive these lower frequencies of vibration, respond to higher vibratory frequencies, which means that it takes more energy to get them jump started. And if you listen to or look at the type of music that turns them on, it's usually string instruments. You know, like white rock musicians, they're into this wailing guitar sound, right? Because that's what it takes to stimulate this calcified organ within their body, right? Every body responds to different frequencies of vibration, all right? It just so happens that melanated bodies are more finely attuned to a greater range of vibrations, which also means that we are more finely attuned to a wider range of knowledge and information. That's why we act the way we act, why we move the way that we move. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those who lack that ability must teach you to reject that which is inherently yours so that you can continue to fall under their dominion. Okay? Sister, did you want to please make an announcement regarding this evening? We got a little special program that we want to offer to you all, and I guess part of being able to experience information has to deal with transmitting sound, transmitting stories, planting certain seeds into your subconscious, which allows you to develop a greater understanding. So I wanted her to share some information with you that we're going to be dealing with this evening.
Yeah, very quickly. It was very interesting to hear Brother Tony here say almost word for word some of the things that I say that are not in any book that I've ever read. And it brings a clear demonstration that genetic memory, cultural memory is alive and well. Really interesting. I'll tell you some of those things. I have this latest book, and I'm going to be telling stories from it this evening. And I wanted to sort of get you introduced to it. We on this trip are going into the ancestors greatly, which is great. That's mentioned in here as well. But the book concentrates on the descendants of the kidnapped children of the Songhai Empire, the descendants of these ancestors that we're studying here. Quickly, I'm going to give you 3 descriptions that are in the book by 2 descendants describing other descendants. One of them is Marion Barnes, Aunt Marion Barnes. There will be 2 pieces here that describe the black man and the black woman. And the 3rd one is by Paul Laurence Dunbar, who describes the mask that we wear. Black man is the first one. And it goes like this. Black man, first man, strong, spirited, spiritual, survivor, beleaguered, beset, belittled, envied, hated, targeted, feared, because fired in life's fiercest furnace. At your best, you are pure gold. And then we talk about the black woman. Here she is. Mother of the world, loving, giving, laughing, soft. Keeper of the race, knowing, guiding, surviving, still. Showing children of her womb godliness, human service, respect, shaping the African soul and spirit, molding children of the master class, manners, gentility, hospitality, building Southern culture, teaching students in her classrooms, heritage, history, pride, confidence, planting seeds of leadership. Black woman, pride of the race, pillar of the nation. These are the 2 folks we're talking about here and at our best. But Paul Laurence Dunbar describes the mask that we had to develop. So he says, We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks. It shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile. But oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We grin. But oh, the clay's vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. Now, this book goes into the fact that the mask has become acceptable and comfortable, both to the larger society and tragically to each of us in some way. I don't think anybody gets out of it. Don't think you can live here and be completely free of this mask. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. The book, hopefully, we tried to put in this, the way I structured it, I wanted you to get knowledge if you never opened it. So here you see people who contributed. What I say is, just as the ancestors gave the world the foundation for the civilization that we live in, you and I, and our mothers and fathers, gave this modern world, America, and from the rest of America teaches the world, this modern civilization. It's built on us. And we're still down there at the bottom. So this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. I will prove to my satisfaction, but I ask every one of you not to believe a word I say. I want you to believe it. I want you to go out and check it for yourself. Come back and tell me where I'm wrong. As long as I've been doing this, I've been caught wrong once, and I was glad. I want to learn. If I'm wrong, tell me. I probably was wrong more than that. You've got a good chance to flesh it out and let me know where I'm wrong. But it's important. Here we have men and women who have contributed in many areas. Here's Richard Allen. He gave us the AME Church, as you know. He also gave us the first group health medicine plan. You don't hear about that. Like I say, this whole civilization is built right on us. After this book, you'll be talking about men and women of color who changed the world. Some of them will surprise you. You will not perhaps have known that they were of color. So this is what we want to be talking about. I didn't want you to go to sleep and say, oh, she's going to be down there telling stories. I heard them before. Come out. I don't know what time we're going to do this, Brother Tony.
We should be able to do it after dinner.
After dinner?
Dinner is at 8, so I would say around 9:30.
Okay, that sounds good to me. What we do is to hit every phase of the Black experience in this book, and I will read short pieces from the various stages and be open to questions. I thank you so much for your time.
Professor Clark became a big force in my life, and I think some of, few of the rest of us that had been involved in the student movement in terms of Pan-Africanism, the concept of Pan-Africanism, the understanding of African history, the significance of it, just having this thirst and wanting to learn all that we could and identifying with that on a worldwide Pan-African, level. And that just led further to seeking out what are the best forms of, is that on?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I'm sorry.
And then, but always there was this nationalist base, meaning that, the tradition of Garvey and so forth, it was like a race first, commitment to self, where self is the collective. And now I've come to the, then as I was studying African culture and civilization, what became clear to me was that ritual was extremely important for us. The recreation of ritual, which is a form of experiencing reality in such a way that you become spiritually renewed and regenerated. And that's what our people use to get through the Ma'afa. And it's something that we use to reconnect with those forces which energize us. We've always done that. That's what happens in traditional, African culture and in African culture now. So what I wanted to do was to kind of go back as the symbol of Sankofa. Do you understand that? Okay, go back and fetch it, as it were. But we take the pieces and put together, reconstruct these collective cultural rituals, which I saw as being very political in significance. That is helping to form a collective consciousness, because that's what happens in ritual, is that people, through experiencing the same thing together, that's what happens when you pray together. You understand your oneness, so that in these rituals, which would be African, we would understand our Africanness together, and that would help us to understand what was our political mission. Okay, so my thing was to reconstruct these kinds of forms, which we've used our music, we've used jazz in that way, and so forth, to help us in terms of our political consciousness, what I call a national consciousness, an African consciousness, which is really a reflection of an ancestral consciousness. See, doing all of that. And in the book, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, the point is that we have been doing these things on a subconscious level, not using a political terminology for it, so that we have our art, we have our dance, we have our music. Other people have understood the power in all of those things. And so what they try to do, the questions they'll always ask is, well, this belongs to everybody, and can I do this too? So the Europeans always want to be able to claim jazz, right? Which they're really imitating, but not creating. But it's always us who are creating it. And we give it away. That's what we do. We always give our culture away because we never understand the political significance of culture. That is my key, is that culture is extremely political. It is a force by which people define for themselves what is important in life, what are priorities, what should we do together as a group, where should we put our energies, and always have, and we've understood that, for millennia as an African people. And then what the Europeans had to do, and those others who sought to conquer us, is to separate us from that understanding. Okay, so in the process you lose the culture, or try to get you to lose it. So we continue to have our music and we don't understand the significance of it. Our dance, we don't understand the significance of it. And then very importantly, the point that I was making was also our way of thinking, our particular approach to understanding reality, understanding the world, which is the worldview. I talk about the African worldview. That's what I'm talking about, and Let the Circle Be Unbroken. We've got to understand that as a cultural entity, we have our way of defining reality, spirit, matter, life, death, all of these things. And that is special to us. It represents our nature, who we are. The European worldview goes against all the things, you see, that we would use to understand reality. They talk about individualism. They talk about domination, destroying nature, using nature, being exploitative, as opposed to harmony, like Tony was talking about, ma'at, harmony in the world. The European isn't interested in a harmonious order in the world. It's interested in destroying that order. You see, because it's through that you gain control. So what I'm arguing is that we need to understand what is our way of approaching reality, understanding reality that reflects who we are. That's the only way we're going to be strong. What was imposed on us through enslavement and through what I call the ma'afa, which is my term for that period, was this way of thinking which would weaken us. because it would separate us from each other and then separate us from our source, which is Africa, which is our ancestors, you know, and so forth. So it's arguing that's the work that I'm trying to do, is to promote an understanding of the African worldview, and then these various forms, the ritual, the, you know, culture, music, spiritual conceptions, and so forth. Then to take that further is the concept of nation building. A lot of us are talking about nation building, and this brother in Washington, D.C. has a book called Nation Building. His name is Ajay Akoto, and he's part of a group that has been organizing African institutions for over 20 years. They have a school in D.C., Watoto Schule. It's on Park Street.
I know exactly where it is.
Right?
Park Road.
Park Road,
Park.
I'm
I
sorry.
pass it all the time when I go to school.
Well, those are the people that I work very closely with.
Oh, okay.
And these two brothers that I told you about, they go to UDC. They're a part of. They grew up in there. Okay. They brought land in Virginia and just kept building on it and building on it, and have a camp there. My daughter went to the camp for 8 years, and she'll now be a counselor at the camp. She's 17. We now have a leadership training program, and gonna have an activity center and so forth and so on. But what the concept of nation building is that what we have to do is to create African environments, even when we are not on the, you know, the soil of the continent of Africa. And by an African environment, what you mean is an environment which will nurture the African spirit of the African person. Because it will be based on, like if you have an institution, it will use the principles of the African worldview. It will promote the values of African culture, which would be communalism, which would be reciprocity, the giving and taking, which would be the complementarity between the male and the female, as opposed to the patriarchal structures, you know, of the European. These kinds of things, which would talk about harmonious order, talk about ma'at. Spirituality. Our culture's always been spiritually based. That's where we get meaning from. And we understand the universe as a spiritual whole. That is not the European conception, which is very materialistic. You see, which is really saying that there's no such thing as spirit. That it's all about doing, you know, unto somebody else before they do unto you. That kind of thing. And what we're arguing is that that kind of environment will never nurture an African person, will never make for a healthy African person or a healthy African community. And that if we're going to do that, what we've got to do is to build our own institutions, which we control, and also economically, which we support. Now that's a big step for people of African descent, but that's where we're at right now. That's you know, we're at that threshold, which fear has kept us from crossing over into. We were talking earlier about a few days ago that we've been conditioned for dependency, to feel that we've got to always depend on European to do everything for us. Okay, and that goes as far as school is concerned as well. And so that's what I'm talking about in your movement.
Right. Question. Now, how do we fit that into the political structures that we have
Of the United States?
Right. I mean, do we create our own political, or do we? You know, as some people say.
No, I understand. One of the things we have to understand is that we are in a state of transition, which means that it's never good to say that you do this or you do that. Okay? So I can see people doing what they can, say, within the political system of the United States, right? It's always better to have someone who, you know, has the interests of the community at heart rather than not. However, the bottom line is you've got to understand what that system was set up for. So you can't be talking about independence. You can't be talking about something which is African-centered. You can't be talking about something which ultimately is going to be Pan-African in its thrust through the traditional system of the United States. There's no way you can do it. The first question they would ask Marion Barry, for instance, is, how are you going to represent white people? We believe you're only in there to represent your own people, which is exactly what you should be in there for. Right? So the system tries to neutralize you like that, right? To water down whatever power you might have. So we've got, what I'm saying is that we're going to have to understand the limitations of all of those systems. And that is not to say that people shouldn't work in them, but they, at the same time, they need to be building outside of them at the same time. So that economics, we need to be building, you know, for strength in our own communities. Schools. Why is it, with all the resources that we have, that we wouldn't have our own schools? You know, what group of people do you know that sends their children to the enemy to be educated? That is total dependency in your mind, mental dependency that Carter G. Woodson was talking about, mental, you know, colonialism, mental slavery that Bob Marley was talking about. Is because you think that they are the smartest and they can tell you what to do. And, you know, that's what we'll say. Oh, yeah, well, all I want to do, if I can learn from him, then I can do such and such and such. But what is being taught in an educational system is how to support a particular culture and how to defend that culture and how to become whatever it is that that culture needs you to be. Now, if you're European, then they need you to be a leader. If you're us, they need you to be a slave. So that's what we're learning to be when we, you know, in those institutions. So we have got to build our own institutions, and all other people have done that. They've all had their own schools. You know?
That's good.
Next year.
So we're on a boat right here. Different people from our group sitting down. We just finished having dinner, cruising the Nile. Should be getting out to our next destination shortly. I think around 10 o'clock or so. Should be docking. So here's some of our members here. Union Temple. Hi. That's right. You want to say something, Union Temple? No, say Hotep.
Hotel. Say Oregon.
How about it got here? Hotel! How about it got here? Hotel! Remember the Amistad?
That's the inside joke.
It's too bright?
Yes, it's a little bit too bright.
Well, it's bright so that we can get you a video in nice bright colors. So.
Well, look at it. President and
Yo,
please have a grand time.
say something.
You came up
Huh?
down to get that.
I'm speechless, brother.
You speechless? Why are you speechless?
It's all
Because I think if I say something, I might bust out some tears.
What about you?
loving it, loving it.
Loving it?
The people feeling good, feeling the vibe. The light's kind of bright, but that's all right. Glad to be on the camera. Hi.
Okay.
Glorious time. There's a lot of exciting things to do. The word this time is Pamoja Tutashinda. We're gonna do this again. All right. Habaragani! Pamoja Tutashinda! Habaragani! Pamoja Tutashinda!
They're giving greetings out in the original Kemetic language.
What's going on over here?
Here's Rev up here cutting fool. Got him on tape.
Yeah, on the ship too. Can't get on.
Rev Wilson right here.
Have the Eye of Horus because it's the most happiness group in the life.
Yeah.
Here's our guru right here. Abu Naga. Oh, okay.
تليفوني ضرب جرس البرنس سرنا فتح الباب علي شمت رواح الجنة زعلت وبكيت قالت لي روق استنى بعد ما نستنوهم مريد ما تتمنى يلي غاوي الجمال قبل على الخرطوم يلي غاوي الجمال قبل على الخرطوم بنات السودان زي السمك بتعوم يلي غاوي الجمال قبل على الخرطوم بنات السودان زي السمك بتعوم يلي غاوي الجمال يلي الوس مبروم يحنوا للغريب وابن البلد محروم يا حليب السبت والحد ركيت الحبيب ركيتو الاثنين والثلاث عن غرامي حكيتو الاثنين والثلاث عن غرامي حكيتو الاربع والخميس عن المخدة تكيتو الخميس ليلة الجمعة بعد الضحك بكيتو عليك مرة قعدت علي صغير كم مرة توعد وتغير ده انت كبير مش صغير وطبعك عمر ما يتغير ما قلت لك ما توعدني مشيهم عالطريق غية تجي لك ساعة الصبحية قبل كتب المدرسية تجي لك ساعة الظهرية تقول لك روح ويعني تجي لك ساعة العصرية عالحنفية بتملى المي تجي لك ساعة المغربية على السيما البحري تجي لك ساعة العشوية تقف معك ساعتين وشوية الأب يقول بنت صبية لازم يكون محرمية غير الصيغة والفضية والكنبة والطبلية والكنبة والطبلية والكنبة والطبلية الأم تكون بنت صبية لازم يكون محرمية يتفصلوا عن المضادية الأم تكون بنت صبية عسلها 70 جلابية يتفصلوا عن المضادية يحتاروا فيها الترزية يحتاروا فيها الترزية ده الشباب راحوا ضحية نشكي من في السعدية نشكي الرئيس الجمهورية قلت لك ما توعدني زرع بستان وجناين الورد وانا في الغربة من يسري الورد زرعوا الياسمين والفول قول يا غريب يا غريب على فين يا غريب يا غريب يا غريب يا بالقلب جراح ومين يداوي ولا المجروح درب عجيب بالقلب جراح ومين يداوي ولا المجروح درب عجيب بالقلب جراح ومين يداوي بالقلب جراح اما تقول على فين يا غريب يا غريب يا غريب بالغربة غريب يا غريب يا غريب بالغربة غريب ويتم الأفراح شوف سهر الليل بيجي منين القهر الليل بيجي منين نفتح باب وفاء قلبي ودي دمع العين حياتي وده دمع العين
Thank you.